Today I want to take a look back at what I believe to be one of the healthiest depictions of masculinity ever put on screen. It is, of course, Viggo Mortensen's depiction of Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings. Chapter 1: The Ranger versus the Soldier. It's first off important to realise that Aragorn is introduced to us not as a great soldier or warrior, but as a ranger. Now anyone who knows Tolkien's world knows that Aragorn led many great military triumphs years before he met Frodo and the other hobbits. But this is not something that the hobbits know. To them, and to us the audience, he is ostensibly a keeper of the land. His day job is not to close ranks and destroy the enemy, but to preserve, scout, and protect a threatened environment. It's fair to say that he is more shepherd than soldier. Why is this important in terms of masculinity? Because it means that the man who will be a great leader of men has a first instinct to preserve, and not to destroy. It's a situation in which power will be wielded for good, and not violence for violence sake. Chapter 2: Stoicism. There is an interpretation of Stoicism in the modern world which suggests that to be a Stoic is to show no emotion, and arguably even to feel no emotion. This is a notion which, if taken seriously, in fact leads to psychopathy rather than Stoicism. In his book The Obstacle is the Way, Stoic philosopher Ryan Holiday outlines what a more appropriate approach to Stoicism would be, saying, "No one said you aren't allowed to feel. Take a moment to cry if necessary. Cast aside false masculinity. Real strength lies in domestication of one's emotions, not in pretending that they don't exist." And control of his emotions is exactly what Aragorn displays at Gandalf's death. As we can see, other than Frodo, Aragorn is the one who takes the longest moment in the initial aftermath to process what has happened. He is the one who is most struck by it emotionally. But following this, upon recognizing the danger that is present, he is also the first to encourage the hobbits to their feet.
Legolas, get them up.
Give them a moment, for pity's sake!
By nightfall, these hills will be swarming with orcs. We must reach the woods of Lothlorien. Come, Boromir, Legolas, Gimli, get them up.
On your feet, sir.
He takes a moment to feel, but doesn't let emotion get in the way of making a vital call. Chapter 3: Humility and Courage. It's often said that courage is not a lack of fear, but acting in spite of it. Again, the modern interpretation of Stoicism would have us believe that fear is something men ought not to feel. But Aragorn constantly recognizes his shortcomings. He is full of humility, such as when he signals to Arwen that he doesn't know if he can take the place of the king.
Why do you fear the past? You are Isildur's heir, not Isildur himself. You are not bound to his fate.
The same blood flows in my veins. Same weakness.
Indeed, as a man raised by elves, he is surrounded by a race that is immortal and has skills that are beyond the capabilities of most men. And yet, in spite of this fear, he pushes through. He knows that if he does not stand up, no other man will. Although it's a long journey to power, he ultimately seizes his birthright and lives the life that belongs to him. Chapter 4: Language. There's an absurd notion in modern culture that men who are interested in poetry and literature are lacking in masculinity. Like modern interpretations of Stoicism, this stems from a belief that poetry, language, and song are so heavily intertwined with exploring one's emotions, and that doing this is an emasculine thing to do. Aragorn, however, turns this notion on its head. He speaks several languages, He is articulate and able to defend his actions effectively, and he engages with his emotions rather than hiding from them, as he demonstrates in his love of song and poetry. Epilogue: Viggo Mortensen. I'd like to end on a note about Viggo Mortensen. For many of the people who fell in love with The Lord of the Rings from the 2000s, it was his performance that stood out. Indeed, he embodies many of the qualities that Aragorn has himself. He speaks at least 6 different languages fluently, he stands up for what he believes in, but does so stoically. These qualities, and the qualities that Aragorn displays throughout the books and the lore of Middle-earth, make for a male role model that embodies the best masculine qualities, while rejecting the more toxic elements of what it means to be a man.